Good. Let's finish up a little bit. Okay. So this seems like a strange position. And again, I can set up from so many different positions this, right? If I shelve the arm, the elbow, right? So we're barely scratching the surface, but really it's just a few different wrist manipulations is how to get there. So, the other side. So that was a little bit, sorry, this way. He gets an underhook. This is how I actually set it up a lot. I'll pull it here, I'll step over. I'll push the head, I'll step over. Right? And again, the nice thing, if I lose it, I can come in. Actually, a lot of times when I'm here, and he starts reaching through that other arm, I can start wrist locking this one. Right? But we're here. Now, as I was explaining to Mikhail, the beautiful part about this particular position and this submission is you don't look at him because you're embarrassed for both of you that he's getting caught in this. And the only place for him to tap is on my ass. So it's kind of a really super humiliating thing for him. Right? And then, again, try to keep your arm on this side of your body. If it travels over here, it can be hard to hit and he can much easier lock his legs. Now I have triangles I can start setting up there and other things, but I like to keep it on this side. And again, it can be here, it can be done here. And again, I can always back up, start setting up other situations here and into monoplatas and things like this. Okay. Anything that ends with a plata, by the way, has a wrist lock. Okay, so gogo plata, monoplata, omoplatas, burrata plata, there's wrist locks pretty much there everywhere. Okay, why are there wrist locks? If you attack my elbow, the wrist is at the end. If you attack the shoulder, the wrist is at the end. And I have to play this game, right? Even if I'm framing with the elbows. If I'm framing with an elbow, the hand is there, right? It's not like it's somewhere else. So even a guy is just blocking with his elbows, the wrists are always going to be exposed. The only way the wrists are ever going to be safe is maybe if they're completely out of position or they're behind you. And if they're behind me, there's nothing stopping you controlling them. So again, that's always his problem, is if you're threatening the wrists with everything, this gives you a clear path. I'm lazy. I don't want to fight around all of his arms. I want to make him scared to use his arms so that it's an easy path. Does it make sense? In the same way that stand up, very simplistic. If he's passing my guard and my feet are here and he just wrap up a foot. How do I do this? How easy is this to pass? Okay? People do that with footlocks all the time. They don't know with wrists. But the thing is, you can't footlock me when I'm standing. Right? But everybody, again, the first thing they address you, standing on the ground, anything, is going to be their hands. We're sitting here, we're playing, and I start reaching. Right? That's hands. Right? He's reaching for me, we're playing the game, but and start. Not that I was getting him out of position. This is one thing. I said I want to control the elbows. There are times I'm going to control the wrist. Okay, and then maybe go to the elbow. When you control, what I don't like to do is control the wrist like this. There's no threat on the wrist, and also pull your hand away. It's very hard. So a lot of times if I am controlling, I'm controlling the hand. This does a couple things, right? Pull your hand away. Also, I can manipulate your elbow more, right? Also, do you feel like you're in danger now a little bit? If I wrist lock too much?
Yes.
So what are you going to do? So this is easier to escape and not a threat. This, now I can control the elbow posture. I can set up wrist locks here, and if he moves it away, there's no more problem for me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I did a whole podcast interview about this, but the reason I use guillotines and wrist locks so much, okay, if you're down, on your back, I'm passing your guard. I'm either gonna, some Dave Kimmery told me early on, I always joke about this, he told me as a purple belt, and if he had told me as a white belt, I would have ignored it. He told me as a purple belt, it became one of my biggest concepts to focus on. He said, we always address what we encounter first. We control it and we move to the next thing. So for instance, if he has legs up, I'm not over here trying to grab like this, right? Because these are all the problems. First thing I control is what?
The feet.
Feet, not even this, right? The feet. Then I control the knee. We move. Same thing for him, right? If I'm reaching with my hands, what should he be looking to control? My hands. If I'm reaching with my head, what should he be looking to control? My head. So that's why I do guillotines and wristlocks so much, because really, the person's either going to bring their head forward first or their hands first. And if I can scare them off of using both, pretty soon they're like, I don't know what to bring forward, right? And this works from top or bottom, right? So, does that make sense? So like if I'm passing, and he's blocking with his hands, right? I can start attacking the hands. If he brings his head in, right, I can start attacking the neck. Now this doesn't have to be guillotines or wristlocks, it can be arm drags or loop jumps. But have an early threat system. Does that make sense? Okay. And be careful when you do wristlocks. Okay, they do go from 0 to 100. Also recognize if your wrist is getting bent, tap. I've seen people not realize they're in a wrist lock. There's a guy who's a black belt now in California I was rolling with one time. And we're sitting on your knees. And he puts his hand on me, right? I lock in. And I'm doing this and he's going, I'm like, dude, tap. He's like, why did he tap? And go, what? And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't think you were going for submission. It's like the cookie jar one. I'll lay down real quick. Head on this side. This is my #1 wrist lock of all time. And once I actually submitted this one black belt with it like 4 times in a row. And he finally figured out in the 4th time it wasn't an accident. And the next time we rolled, he tried everything to wrist lock me. Right? Good friend of mine. So I'll keep my head, I'm not going to teach this, but I'll keep my head really low. And usually what they'll do is they'll try to bring the arm around and I'll bring my head up. And then he'll try to sneak the hand inside my neck. And people don't realize what happened. They think it was like an accident. Right? It was all a setup. Right? And the reason it works is my head is turned this way. Right? If it's like this, bring your hand on my neck, it snakes all the way through. Now because my head is here, the moment he starts bringing it, all I do is I just bring my weight forward. And people will think it's an accident every time. So sometimes they might not tap right away because it doesn't look like I'm doing anything. It's only when I do it 2 or 3 times that they go, oh. Oh, and I call it the cookie jar because once you get your hand in the cookie jar and you grab the cookie, you can't pull it back out. All right. So, yeah, I love that one because it's so lazy. All right. But you guys will play with things, you'll find it, and it changes everything about your jiu-jitsu, right? Because if people are afraid to grab you, they're afraid to post. It makes life so much easier. All right. All right. Let's line up.